That wizard is just a crazy old man. Or is he? To Luke, he was a strange hermit known as Ben. To Leia, he was General Kenobi. And to us, he became the first Jedi we ever met. Mysterious, powerful, and not always telling the full truth. Hi, I'm Alex, and welcome back to Star Wars Relics, where we look back at the original Kenner figures. Today's relic is none other than Obi-Wan Kenobi, the former Jedi General who lived out beyond the Dune Sea. The first time we hear Obi-Wan Kenobi's name is in the holographic message R2 plays of Princess Leia. Luke wonders if R2 means old Ben Kenobi, and in doing so, gives away the hermit's location out beyond the Dune Sea. When Sand people begin ransacking Luke's speeder, they are interrupted by a cloaked figure, Obi-Wan Kenobi himself. He confirms his identity, admits he doesn't recall ever owning a droid, and takes Luke back to his home. There he presents Luke with his father's lightsaber and tells him that his father was murdered by a former pupil of his, Darth Vader. After hearing Leia's desperate plea, Obi-Wan urges Luke to join him, but Luke refuses. Instead, Luke offers to take him as far as Mos Eisley. On their way, they discover the smoking wreck of a Jawa sandcrawler. Its crew slaughtered by stormtroopers. When Luke rushes home and finds tragedy waiting, the four of them set out together for Mos Eisley. At the Imperial checkpoint, Obi-Wan delivers one of the most iconic lines in the trilogy. These aren't the droids you're looking for. Inside the cantina, Luke stumbles into trouble and Obi-Wan is forced to act, cutting down his attackers in an instant. It's here they meet Han Solo and Chewbacca, and with the Empire close behind, they blast their way off Tatooine. Once they've jumped into hyperspace, Obi-Wan begins to train Luke in the ways of the Force. When Alderaan is destroyed, Obi-Wan feels it. I felt a great disturbance in the Force, as if millions of voices suddenly cried out in terror and were suddenly silenced. As they emerge from light speed, Obi-Wan is the first to understand what happened. He senses the TIE fighter before he can see it. He senses the presence of the Death Star before anyone else. And it's he who convinces Han that fighting their way out would be suicide. Once on board the station, they quickly seize control of a command room. With R2's help, they discover how to disable the tractor beam. Obi-Wan immediately takes that task upon himself. Before leaving, he offers Luke a final reassurance. The Force will be with you, always. His words, along with, your destiny lies along a different path, make it clear he already knows this will be their last meeting. Moving silently through the corridors, Obi-Wan avoids detection and succeeds in shutting down the tractor beam. His next steps brings him face to face with his former pupil. What follows is the first lightsaber duel in Star Wars history. As the battle rages, Obi-Wan sees the others escaping into the Millennium Falcon. He locks eyes with Vader, raises his saber, and allows himself to be struck down. His robe collapses to the floor, but there is no body. Moments later, Luke hears his voice. Run, Luke, run. Obi-Wan's presence lingers still. During Luke's trench run, he whispers the guidance that changes everything. Use the Force, Luke. Let go. In The Empire Strikes Back, we see Obi-Wan's Force goes for the first time. He guides Luke to seek out Yoda on Dagobah, and the Jedi Master who once instructed him. After the rebels escape from Hoth, Luke follows that guidance and heads straight for Dagobah. There he meets Yoda, who is reluctant to train him, but with Obi-Wan's support, Yoda eventually agrees. When Luke later decides to rush off and rescue his friends, Obi-Wan warns him against it, knowing full well he's walking into a trap. In Return of the Jedi, Luke confronts Obi-Wan about telling him that Vader killed his father. That's when Obi-Wan delivers his now famous explanation from a certain point of view. We see him one final time at the victory celebration alongside Yoda and Anakin. I have always liked Obi-Wan Kenobi. We learned so much about the galaxy through him, the Clone Wars that give rise to the Empire, the Jedi way of life, and most of what we first understand about the Force, right up until the Empire Strikes Back. When Leia asks for his help, Obi-Wan doesn't hesitate. He acts immediately. And when he parts ways with Luke in the Death Star control room, his focus is on the larger fight and the lives at stake. They must be delivered safely or other star systems will suffer the same fate as Alderaan. Your destiny lies along a different path than mine. That selflessness lines up perfectly with what the prequels show us a Jedi is supposed to be. He also introduces us to the first glimpses of Jedi power, the mind trick at the Stormtrooper checkpoint, sensing Alderaan's destruction. He knows it's a TIE fighter before he can possibly see it, and recognizing the Death Star before anyone else. He seems to know he'll never see Luke again, raising his lightsaber and allowing Vader to strike him down. His body vanishes and he continues as a Force ghost, guiding Luke forward. As a kid, I accepted the Force ghost idea instantly. If I'd encountered it first as an adult, I'm not sure it would have landed the same way. The prequels, however, add real weight to his story. We understand the price he paid, the failures he carried, and why his final act in A New Hope feels less like defeat and more like redemption. Part of the original 12, Obi-Wan was released on 2 Star Wars cards because of the telescoping lightsaber variation. Over the years, he appeared on 2 different card images. The first, used all the way up until the Return of the Jedi 65 pack, shows Obi-Wan holding a lightsaber. It's a clear image, but the blade is colored yellow, which doesn't connect to the movie at all. Eventually, the photo was replaced with what I consider a far superior picture, one that does a better job connecting to the movie. The blue lightsaber really helps. The original image appears to be a flip publicity shot. With no background, it's hard to place exactly where it comes from, but the fact that Obi-Wan is holding his lightsaber makes it instantly awesome. The second image seems to be taken from his duel with Darth Vader. This time he's hooded, saber ignited, and most importantly, it's blue. It's a strong head-on shot that captures the character much better. It's easy to criticize now in our instant information world, but for the first wave, that original photo did the job. By the time Return of the Jedi rolled around, though, it looked dated. Updating it not only freshened the card, but also gave us a saber color that actually matched the figure. Whatever the exact reason, I think Kenner made the right choice. Obi-Wan has one of the best human head sculpts in the original 20, arguably one of the best in the entire vintage line. The proportions are spot on, and while the beard is a bit fuller than Alec Guinness had on screen, it's hard to fault Kenner for that. This was action figures in their earliest stages at 3.75-inch scale. There are 2 known hair variations, the more common white version and the harder to find gray version. The gray hair version seems to have started appearing around the same time as the image was updated. I especially love the painted white eyebrows. No other figure in the line got that level of detail. The hair and beard are nicely textured too, which gives the sculpt real character. It's easily the standout feature of an incredible figure. It feels like the sculptor had almost no reference photos, just told he's a Jedi Knight, they wear brown robes, and left to run with it. On screen, Obi-Wan actually wears a light cream-colored inner robe at home, with a black shirt underneath. The black shirt being the only detail the figure really captures. When he ventures outside, he layers on a dark brown outer robe with a hood, which likely gave rise to the impression that he always wore brown. The figure itself is molded in a reddish-brown plastic, with the hands, belt, and shirt painted on. The color is too light and too red to match the overcoat, but it was close enough for kids at the time to instantly recognize him. What really stands out is how the folds of the robe flow naturally from the torso down into the legs. It gives the figure a sense of depth and texture that most of the original 20 didn't quite pull off. The only figure that carries this detail even better is the Tusken Raider. Like Luke and Vader, Obi-Wan was first released with a double telescoping lightsaber. This early version featured a thin inner blade that extended out from the main piece, creating the illusion of a longer lightsaber. The design was fragile and short-lived, making it one of the rarest vintage Star Wars variations today. I've never seen one in person. I'd love to own one someday, though I don't expect that'll ever happen. I'm not crazy about the lightsaber we ended up with. I have a feeling the telescoping version would have been way cooler, though it probably would have broken a lot more often than the one we got. Obi-Wan only uses a lightsaber, and the figure reflects that. He comes with a blue lightsaber, even though the card art shows a yellow one. This mismatch has fueled the theory that Luke was originally intended to have the blue lightsaber, while Obi-Wan would have carried the yellow. The blade itself is blue, but the hilt section it extends from was never painted, so it's left in the same brown plastic as the figure. It feels like an unforced error, but subtle enough that most kids at the time probably never noticed. Given the fixed hand position this design requires, the arm actually looks really natural. You can tell they really tried to do something innovative. They want to bring the effect of igniting a lightsaber into the figure itself. And by making the lightsaber retractable into the arm, they actually pulled it off. The trade-off, of course, is that it gives the figure an awkward fighting pose. The concept of a lightsaber retracting into the arm was never used again, which almost feels like history's passing judgment on the idea. Still, I really admire the creativity and ambition behind it. They were aiming high with this one. Obi-Wan stands very well, whether his arms are up or down. The front and back halves of the figure's legs aren't perfectly flush, but that doesn't seem to affect the stability at all. The sculpted robes actually help by increasing his footprint, giving him an even more secure and stable stance. He is so stable that he does not require a base to be displayed. Of all the figures that received a vinyl cape, it looks best on Obi-Wan Kenobi. The thickness of the vinyl is well suited to the size of the figure, and when the cape is folded down, it naturally mimics his hood. It works seamlessly with the rest of the costume, adding both flair and volume to his Jedi robes. I can't believe I'm saying this, but this might be the rare case where a cloth cape might not have improved the figure's appearance. Even though vinyl is prone to tearing, it looks excellent on Obi-Wan. The only drawback is that the cape can make it a little tricky to place him in a vehicle. My wife and I started Fresh Solutions Therapy as our second career because we wanted to create a place where therapy doesn't suck. At Fresh Solutions Therapy, we grow our own therapists. We get to know them, guide them, and teach them the skills they need to provide exceptional care. This approach allows us to offer high-quality, affordable therapy to everyone. So if you've been hesitant to try therapy because it felt too expensive, visit freshsolutionsTherapy.ca and check out our affordable therapy program. Great care shouldn't break the bank, and now it doesn't have to. He has amazing balance, and the sculptor did an excellent job carrying the folds of the robe naturally from the torso down to the legs. Of the 3 lightsaber arms, his looks the best, and the lightsaber itself is the closest to what we see on screen. Even when there's wear on the hands, it's not very noticeable since the plastic underneath is darker. I'm okay with the choice to use one brown for the figure. It could have looked strange if they tried to mimic his on-screen wardrobe with a lighter color plastic and a dark brown vinyl cape. I cannot stress enough how impressive this figure looks, especially considering how early it came in the action figure history. Obi-Wan Kenobi is the last of the first 4 figures I ever got. And yes, I played with him a lot. My Obi-Wan teamed up with Luke all the time, taking on the roles of Master and Padawan long before I knew what they were. Just like Obi-Wan and Anakin and Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, together they could tear through anything. As my collection and the number of heroes grew, Obi-Wan was eventually moved to a command role further in the rear with Yoda. But I will never forget that he was one of the very first 4 figures I ever owned. I'm absolutely blown away by how the Death Star droid episode has taken off. At last check, it had cracked 20,000 views. I want to thank everyone who subscribed. My goal is 500 subscribers, and once we hit that and the right number of watch hours, I can finally launch a merch store. I've got a bunch of t-shirt designs ready to go, some of which don't even violate copyright. A huge thank you to everyone who took the time to comment, especially those of you who offered a little pushback. It's all appreciated. Tell me your Obi-Wan stories in the comments. I'd love to hear them. If you liked what you saw here, please like, share, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. If you didn't love it, leave a comment. I want to know how I can improve. And check out my Facebook page to see the thumbnail 24 hours before each episode goes live. And if you know your Star Wars, you already know who's next. Until then, take care.